The High Dominion assembly stretched far beyond the limits of my imagination. It wasn't a room, no. Calling it a room would be like calling an ocean a puddle. It was a vast, almost incomprehensible space, suspended somewhere between the physical and the metaphysical, where walls shimmered with impossible patterns and light bent in ways that made my eyes ache. I couldn't tell where the dome ended and the void began. Every step echoed, though not in a way that suggested emptiness. It was the kind of echo that reminded you just how small you were. My platform floated in the center of it all, small, unimpressive, and deliberately designed to look inferior to the larger, gleaming ones orbiting around me. I didn't need to look up to know who sat or floated above me. The Supreme Assembly of the High Dominion wasn't made of mere beings. No, they were legends, myths. The first time I'd stepped into this chamber, I'd barely been able to breathe, let alone speak. Even now, years into my post as Earth's ambassador, my palms still felt clammy against the tablet I held. Humans, the voice boomed, and I glanced up at the nearest representative. Yovarin. It was a being of interlocking metallic rings, spinning in slow, deliberate rotations. Its voice wasn't a sound, really it was a vibration, a deep hum that resonated in my chest more than my ears. Your species continues to surprise us with its inefficiencies. I tried not to flinch. That was the usual opening to these meetings. Earth was an endless source of amusement for the Assembly. Every session they picked apart our progress or lack thereof and then declared new guidance protocols to help us along. It was humiliating, infuriating. But I kept my face carefully neutral, scribbling fake notes on the tablet in my hand. They still rely on fossil fuels for energy, Yovarin continued, its rings accelerating slightly, as if worked up by the mere thought. Primitive combustion. Do you have any idea how inefficient that is? Another voice joined in Arivax, a translucent jelly like being perched on a platform to my left. It glowed faintly pink, pulsing in time with its words. And their colonization efforts. We observed their recent attempts on Deneb IV, pressurized domes. It's as if they've never even heard of atmospheric restructuring. The assembly erupted into overlapping clicks, hums, and flashes of telepathic signals. I stood silently in the middle of it all, the awkward human representative, nodding as if I appreciated their wisdom. I knew better than to interrupt. They didn't want dialogue, they wanted to bask in their own superiority. Arivax turned its attention back to me, its form rippling. Ambassador Hall, surely you understand the need for stricter mentorship protocols. Your species is fragile, teetering on the brink of disaster. Without our intervention, you would almost certainly destroy yourselves. I forced a sheepish smile, adjusting the glasses perched on my nose. We're, very grateful for your guidance. Truly. More laughter rippled through the assembly, not the warm, good-natured kind. This was the laughter of beings who saw themselves as gods humoring an insect. I scratched another meaningless doodle onto my tablet, but the real work was already happening. A small, nearly invisible device embedded in my cufflink buzzed faintly, transmitting a coded signal back to Earth. Assembly confident. Arrogance level stable. Proceed with Phase 2. The session continued, with the assembly listing every perceived flaw in human development. By the time it ended, I felt like I'd been wrung out and hung to dry. Not that it mattered. I wasn't here to win their approval. I was here to buy time. 3 months later, the alarms went off. I was in my quarters aboard the Dominion flagship, going over notes from the latest session, when the red lights began to pulse. A metallic voice blared over the comms. Hostile fleet detected. Origin Krozak Raiders. Target human colony on Deneb IV. I was out the door before the announcement finished. My escort, a pair of tall, insect-like sentinels, met me in the corridor and ushered me toward the assembly chamber. I barely had time to throw on my jacket before stepping into the vast, glowing space once again. The ambassadors were already gathered, their platforms orbiting the central display. A massive hologram flickered to life, showing the Krozak fleet in all its terrifying glory. Sharp, angular ships bristling with weapons, their black hulls etched with alien runes. The lead vessel alone was larger than anything Earth had ever revealed publicly. "They've chosen an easy target," Arivax said, its glow dimming slightly. "The human colony is defenseless. They'll be slaughtered," Yovarin added, its rings spinning in a furious blur. "Their planetary defenses consist of missiles, crude, kinetic weapons. Laughable." I stepped onto my platform, fumbling with my tablet for effect. "Oh dear," I muttered, glancing nervously at the display. "This is very concerning." The colony appeared on the hologram, a small cluster of domes scattered across Deneb IV's rocky surface. To the assembly, it looked like a lamb surrounded by wolves. "Permission to intervene?" one of the ambassadors asked. Its voice was soft, almost hesitant. Yovarin's rings slowed. "There's no need to risk our fleets for a doomed colony. Let them serve as an example of why our mentorship is necessary." The wolves closed in, and I clenched my hands around the tablet, forcing myself to stay calm. This was the moment we'd been preparing for. The domes began to shift, and for the first time, the assembly fell silent. Metal plates retracted, revealing sleek, towering structures hidden beneath the surface. The human defense grid activated, and the first raider ship disintegrated not in fire, but in a burst of golden energy. It didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist, its atoms scattered across the void. The second and third ships followed almost immediately. The remaining vessels tried to retreat, but the space around them warped, trapping them in localized gravity wells. One by one they were destroyed. What is this?" Arivax stammered, its form rippling violently. This isn't possible." I adjusted my glasses, pretending to jot something down. "Well, I guess we've been working on a few upgrades. Must have slipped my mind to mention it." The assembly was too stunned to respond. On the display, the colony's defenses stood revealed sleek, advanced constructs that no primitive species should have been capable of building. And then the surprises kept coming. Across the galaxy, more human colonies began to decloak, their hidden fleets and stations activating in perfect unison. Earth's moon flickered, its disguise peeling away to reveal a massive orbital fortress bristling with weapons. "This is a breach of galactic law," Yovarin hissed, its rings vibrating violently. "You've lied to us." I shrugged, tucking the tablet under one arm. "Not lied, just withheld a few details." "Your species is primitive," Arivax protested. "We've been monitoring your development for decades." I raised an eyebrow. "Have you, though?" More displays lit up around the chamber, showing human stealth fleets appearing near every major Dominion-controlled sector. Quantum signatures flared across the galaxy like fireworks, revealing hidden bases and fortified outposts. "We've been watching," I said, my voice calm but firm, "studying, preparing. While you taught us the basics, we mastered the advanced courses." Yovarin trembled with rage. "This is an act of war." "No," I replied smoothly. "This is an insurance policy. You wanted to guide us. We decided to make sure you couldn't guide us into oblivion." The chamber erupted into chaos. Crystalline entities pulsed erratically, liquid beings quivered, and telepathic voices shouted over each other in a cacophony of confusion. I waited, letting the noise wash over me. When it finally began to settle, I cleared my throat. "Now," I said, straightening my tie, "shall we discuss new terms for our relationship? Something a little more equal." The assembly stared at me, their alien forms flickering and glowing in the dim light of the chamber. For the first time, I saw fear in their eyes. I pulled a small device from my pocket and placed it on the edge of my platform. It projected a galaxy-wide map, each human stronghold marked with a glowing red beacon. "We're willing to share our advancements," I continued, my tone light. "Gradually, of course. Can't have too much change all at once." Yovarin's rings slowed to a near halt. "And if we refuse?" I smiled, leaning casually against the platform's railing. "Then we'll keep pretending to be primitive. But I should warn you, it's getting expensive to maintain the illusion. Do you know how hard it is to fake a rocket explosion these days?" Silence. No one argued. No one dared. "Well," I said, clapping my hands together, "shall we begin?" And just like that, humanity stopped being a project